morning. Um, for today's presentation, I have a verse from the second chapter. The second chapter in the Gita is called Samkhya Yoga. It's one of the longest chapters in the Gita. This is the chapter where Krishna starts teaching us that we are more than our body, we are more than our special senses, we are more than our mind. We are actually spiritual beings, and we are endowed with this internal peace, bliss, and joy. And Krishna teaches extensively about how one could take this knowledge and practice it and tap into this bliss that we have. While explaining how we can connect with this bliss, he also makes it a point about who would not be able to enjoy the bliss within. For that, we go to verse 66 in the second chapter. Krishna says, Nasti buddhirayuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana, nacha bhavayataha shantihi, ashantasya kutaha sukham. He says, there is no wisdom, there is no knowledge in him who is not disciplined, who is not controlled. Also, there is no concentration, there is no contemplation in him who is not disciplined. Hence, there is no peace in such person who is not able to gain knowledge nor contemplate and concentrate. Then Krishna asks this question at the end of the verse. He says, if there is no peace, how can there be happiness? It's a very important verse which has so much of practical implication. So Krishna is saying if somebody's mind is uncontrolled, undisciplined, and agitated, unsteady, that mind is not capable of, that mind is not ready to receive this knowledge, and then it is not able to concentrate or contemplate or meditate and be able to apply this knowledge in day-to-day life. So this state of agitation robs a person of one's own peace and would prevent that person, an agitated mind would prevent that person from reaching his potential. That's what Krishna is talking about. So the background of this verse is, as you know, Gita is a discourse between the teacher, the guru, the Jagat Guru, Krishna, and then the disciple, the Shishya, Arjuna, who is asking questions in earnest and is trying to learn and trying to apply this knowledge in day-to-day life so one can lead a better life. So when Krishna is explaining about who we are and how we can reach this potential and how we can experience this bliss within, Arjuna then has a question. He says, verse 54, he says, Sthita pragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthita dhihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. He says, O Keshava, Krishna, a person who has attained this state of being, who is able to self-realize and be steady in his wisdom, how does that person behave? How do we recognize that person in day-to-day life? How does he sit? How does he talk? How does he go on in his life, speak? So how does that person look different? Does he behave different? Would I know that person, is what Arjuna is asking. For that, Krishna says, this transformation is internal. It's not external. However, there are certain characteristics this person exhibits, both internally and externally. And what are those? A person who has connected with his self is no longer worried about the desires of the world, because he found that internal happiness. He's not depending on the world to keep him happy anymore. That doesn't mean he doesn't have any desires. To come to the temple is a desire. To have a better life is a desire. Those desires to improve oneself, to evolve spiritually, those are not prohibited. The desires of the world is what Krishna is talking about. I'll be happy when I get money or house or children or job, or that is the type of desire, unending type of desires that Krishna is talking about. This person would also be able to develop control over his senses and his mind. And that person does not control them forcefully. It would be very similar to children. When children are going in the wrong path or doing things that they are not supposed to be doing, telling them don't do would not be effective. We try to distract their attention and turn their attention and energy into another path, another point of concentration. That's what a realized person is also doing. He is establishing his concentration not on the world, but on a higher purpose, setting up a higher goal. That's how he's able to control his senses and his mind. If there is no higher goal, the person realizes that the mind is going to go wacky. It thinks about all sorts of things that it need not be thinking about. And Krishna summarizes these events very nicely. He says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. He says, when we are dwelling on things, thinking about things, there is certain attachment. And when we have attachment, we have a desire. And when we have a desire, we want to fulfill it. And if it's not fulfilled, we get mad, we get upset, we get agitated. Okay? And does it stop there? No. Then what he says is, Krodat bhavati samohaha, samohat smriti vibramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. When we get mad, we get emotional. Okay? We don't think straight anymore. We get into a delusion type of, a temporary madness type of situation. When we do that, our intellect does not function like it is supposed to be functioning. It cannot guide us into the right side or, avoid from the wrong side. So that would cause destruction of our intellect, buddhi, and then that would cause destruction of the person. So the person who is able to set a higher goal realizes he can avoid all this course of events by controlling, channeling his mind the way he should be channeling. So what happens when a person is able to control the mind and the senses? He or she would develop a state of vairagya, we say. Vairagya is where one is able to control the likes and dislikes. The world should be going according to my likes or should not be going according to my dislikes. when one is able to quieten that, and Krishna says it's karma yoga. Through karma yoga, we would be able to do that. Doing what we are supposed to be doing and not worrying about the results is one way to start developing it. So when we develop that state, the mind goes into peace. When it is in peace, it gets the joy. That's called prasada. Prasade sarva dukkhanam. And that destroys the sorrows. When we are at peace, it destroys all sorrows associated with the world. And if somebody is not able to follow that, what happens? For that, Krishna says this world. It's all good if you're able to follow the direction and able to practice and able to get your peace. But most of the time you're not able to. You're so busy with this day-to-day life. So that's why he gives this verse. He says, Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayataha shantihi ashantasya kutaha sukham. So how can there be happiness without peace? You can think about the times in your life where there was so much agitation that you were not able to enjoy anything else because you were consumed with that agitation. So what leads us to this agitation, day-to-day agitation in our lives? Starting from every day, we have a routine, and most of us hope the routine goes according to our wishes. But most of the time it doesn't. There are incidents that are happening, there are people that we are interacting, and it is a complex mixture of events and experiences that we go through all day long. When we are thinking about our routine and things, say for example, we are going to work, the car breaks down, or we ordered something online, we expect to get it today, it doesn't come today. And we let these events upset us. We forget that car is mechanical and it can break down anytime. And what we ordered may not come on time. It's because we are so worldly related, so material oriented. And Krishna says there's nothing wrong in getting worldly stuff. In fact, in the 11th chapter, he says, Tasmat Uttishta Yasho Labhasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunsha Rajyam Samruddham. He says, you get up, win over your enemies, get your glory, enjoy your prosperous kingdom. But remember how to prioritize. Things are not everything. Don't let the things control you. You see, get your things, enjoy them, but don't let them run your lives. Some of the examples the scriptures give is all the gold in the world. It's very important. Metal, precious metal, would not be able to quench the thirst, right? It's not equal to one glass of water when we are really thirsty. So it's the prioritization is what he's talking about. And similarly, when we are dealing with people, we have certain expectations about their behavior, especially with the loved ones. We are so, consumed about how our loved ones are supposed to behave. And we have this because since childhood, for example, parents have expectations about how their children should be, or the children would have expectations about how their desires should be met. It goes on and on and on. Yes, if there are no expectations, there are no disappointments. But do we work that way? We are in such preliminary state of being spiritually, we won't be able to reach that state of having no expectations. So Gita talks about slowly. Maybe you can tap down, bring down your expectations. Like for example, the younger kids, they want to only communicate through text. We are so used to the older generation calling. Maybe it's okay if they call. Or a spouse forgets to send flowers for birthday. I'm just giving a couple of examples how our expectations, we can modify them. It's okay if we don't get flowers or whatever, somebody doesn't remember the dates. All day long we are interacting with people and we take things personally too. Somebody says something, we get so insulted. These are all because of the way the senses and the mind work. When we look at the senses, for example, we smell food. We may not even be hungry to eat food, but we eat and then we get upset because we overate when we don't even need to eat. Or the mind is such a powerful instrument we have, but we don't have control over the mind. It's usually taking us to the past or into the future. If you look at things like it's dwelling on things that we cannot do anything about, or the future that it is not even here. Most of the time we are not in the present and dwelling in the past or in the future. One of the tips I learned on Oprah about how to check if you are in the present, one mundane thing is, when was the last time you were in the shower when you were in the shower? Okay? We are thinking about so many things rather than enjoying the water and all. When was the last time you were in the temple when you were in the temple? Okay? So questioning ourselves, what am I where I'm supposed to be doing, or my mind is wandering away and causing me internal trouble, is what Gita talks about. So all day long, family issues, financial issues, something or the other is happening. The routine is always broken and we let the world upset us constantly. So why is this discussion important about mental agitation? Because we so depend on the world and we identify with this body and we suffer all day long. So what does Krishna talk about? Krishna talks about being aware of it. Krishna talks about how it is so hard to change and start changing. Whichever way that works for you. It could be writing a journal. It could be taking a break. It could be meditating for a few minutes. Whichever way it works out, he says, start. Be aware of it. Have some signals for yourself. This is the state I'm going into or gotten into that I don't need to be, and coming out of it. Having some kind of way to break that cycle. And slowly, shanai shanai upparamet, he says, slowly start changing. Unless you start changing slowly, you would never be able to change, and you continue the suffering that you are going through. One of the stories that I wanted to tell you was, a very rich man goes to Swami Vivekananda and he says, Swami, I don't want to read any scriptures. I don't want to go to any discourses. I don't want to follow any yoga. I want to just have a very simple way to find my moksha, my liberation. Okay, how can I do that? Because I'm a very busy businessman and I don't have time for all this. And Swami Vivekananda says, it's very simple. Remind yourself and think about your death every day. It's such a simple thing. We are here for a very short time. We come and we go, and we have about, I think, 30,000 days or something like that on an average, give or take. And all day long they say we get about 16,000 thoughts in our head, constantly churning this mind and, making us suffer when we don't need to suffer. So one of the things we can remind ourselves is about our mortality. However much a short time we are here, might as well have peace and happiness with it. One of the things Krishna also talks about is how we should be reading scriptures to enlighten us, to help us, to guide us, and to help us practice this knowledge. One of the things Gita also talks about is there is no point in reading anything. Okay? Shreyo hi gnanam abhyasa. Gita says it's important to understand what you're reading, what this knowledge is about, and put into practice. There's no point in saying, Aham Brahmasmi, I'm Brahman, so what? Makes no difference, right? But what does that mean? What can I do about it? How can I practice it? And Gita says, practice, practice, practice. Set a way to practice. You find a way that works for you. Whichever way you pick, there is not one way. There are many ways to come to me, many ways to enjoy the bliss and right way. So you find the way that is right for you. Gita talks about again and again and again. It is also important that when we are, for example, another thing that we do is we talk about Shanti. We say Shanti mantra. Okay? How many times do we really take a minute and say, what does this mean? How can I apply it in my life? Because if I'm at peace, I would be giving peace, right? If I'm unhappy, I'll make the surroundings unhappy. We pray, we say Shanti mantra and all that. We pray the Lord give Shanti to everybody, the whole world. But we forget to have Shanti for ourselves. You see? And that's what Krishna is talking about. When you're so agitated, so consumed with the world, you don't really practice things that you are supposed to be practicing for your own good, is what Krishna is talking about. Very simple things. So practice, practice, practice is what all the time Gita talks about. The more we practice, the more we can concentrate. The more we can concentrate and contemplate and meditate on the higher being, the more we can be at peace. And Krishna summarizes this in the 65th verse before this verse. He says the importance of peace. Prasade sarva dukkhana hani rasyopajayate. It is the peace that destroys all your worries, all your sorrows. And many a time, how can we keep in peace? Another tip that I learned online is that to have preferences in life. I would like to eat this, or I would like to go to that place, or I would like for so and so to come to my house, whatever preference you have. And if it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, you don't have to lose your cool, lose your peace and get agitated. The statement that it says is, it would be nice if it happened, if it goes according to my wish, but it's not necessary. A very important statement. It would be nice, but it is not necessary. So I follow that very much. It has helped me a lot. So the point is, peace puts an end to all sorrows. When we are at peace, as I said, we can give peace and the world looks much better because there is no internal war. That is the symbolism of Gita. Gita is not about the external war only. It's also about the internal war, the constant war that goes within us and how we let that rob our peace and joy and bliss. So nothing can be meaningful in life without peace. So that's the point Krishna is talking about. And I want to close with this. Where there is light, there is no darkness. Where there is light, there is no darkness. It's impossible to have darkness when there is light. Similarly, where there is peace, there is no suffering. Okay? That's my presentation.